want to talk about the most important new feature with the upcoming S25 Ultra, S25 series. That's going to be a big leap over the S24 Ultra. We talked about this in a couple different ways, but there seems to be some consensus out there, maybe a lackluster feelings about the upgrades with the phone, because everything we know so far looks like it'll probably be the same camera, probably be the same battery, probably be the same charging speed. So those are some areas that a lot of people have concerns about. I mean, you take a look at OnePlus, 80-watt charging. You take a look at the Pixel, it's got a newer, better camera. It's not even 200 megapixels. You take a look at the battery, like with the OnePlus 13, it's got a 6,000 milliamp battery versus the 5,000 milliamp battery. And some people are concerned about that stuff. But this one new feature is going to take all of those features to the next level. And that's the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor. And the phone's going to be out in less than 2 days now. It's the 20th of January now, which means my birthday was yesterday. It is now past. I'm 41 years old in 1 day. But the S25 Ultra is fixing to have a birth date. Its born on date will be the 22nd. And we'll have the Unpacked event that day. I will be there. And you're coming down to the wire with the opportunity to reserve your pre-order, get your free $50 of credit towards, case, charger, all that crazy stuff. Enter for the $5,000 sweepstakes and get up to $1,250 in savings. I've got an affiliate link in the description. Go to that, no commitment. But here's what I want to talk about. So yes, we're probably going to get the same 200 megapixel camera. We're probably going to get the same battery. We're probably going to have a lot of the same features. But that doesn't mean the phone can't be substantially better. And a lot of that happens to be because of the chip. So the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, I've made several videos talking about this. It is seriously impressive. I've tested it out in several phones. The Honor Magic 7 Pro, I've tested it out in the Nubia X70 Ultra. I've tested it out in the OnePlus 13. And there's some significantly improved stuff whenever it comes to that. And I've seen what it was able to do with OnePlus, even the OnePlus 13 with their camera. The OnePlus 12 cameras are pretty good, but basically most things stayed the same, and we're whistling a different tune this year. And that's because I believe it has to do with the chip. I believe it has to do with the AI when it comes to the processing and the image signal processor. And a lot of people think about the chip that's in it, and they think, oh, well, it's just a new chip. Well, it's not just a new chip. It does a lot of things. So you're going to get the new image signal processor in there, which is one thing that really will help take the camera up a notch. And I sincerely hope that it does. A lot of people don't really get caught up in the whole megapixel game. Megapixels are cool, right? 200 megapixels shoved into one image. That means you just got pixels galore. Largely what that means is if you have a really big blown up image, then you don't lose detail. So traditionally, if you have like a 5 megapixel camera and you try to blow it up in a big image, it looks all pixelated. That's because it can only put so many pixels in the same picture. If you have a 200 megapixel camera, you can shove so many pixels in there, you can blow an image up to like 4 foot. It's probably still going to look okay. Well, megapixels don't really have the biggest influence over the overall photography. Now, when you have bigger pixels and things like that, there's a lot of stuff they've done with the pixel binning. And if you've noticed, if you have your S24 Ultra, you take a photo, it's not normally in 200 megapixel mode. It's in 12 megapixel mode because it bends and it compresses all that stuff down into a 12 megapixel photo, which is cool, and you get some great stuff there, but it's not going to be the full resolution. You don't necessarily need the full resolution. But a lot of people have complained about low light photography. That's one area where it seems to have suffered. And there's some other areas as well, like whenever it comes to the zoom. Yes, it's good, but we did give up a 10 times telephoto for a 5 times telephoto, and they're using AI to fill in the gaps. Well, the image signal processor, the newer one, what does that do? Well, whenever you take a photo, the camera, it has to send the picture somewhere, right? It goes to the image signal processor. There it translates everything and converts it over from the raw image to the digital image, does the processing combined with the chip, and you get your photo. Well, when you have the new image signal processor, it takes advantage of a lot of these new AI features. It takes a lot advantage of the chip itself and the horsepower. And if you ever think about it, if you ever take a photo, you snap a photo with your phone, and you get that initial photo, and then it seems like half a second later, it looks like a completely different, shinier, fancier, way better photo. Well, that's the post-production. That's the computational photography kicking in and really sharpening it up and giving you the final image. Well, whenever you talk about the image signal processor, it's different from last year. So the new one seems to be working out pretty good, especially in some of the photos I've taken. I was really impressed with the OnePlus 13 and the photos that I've taken with it. So let me give you some numbers real quick as we get into this discussion. So I've got the official Snapdragon photo pulled up. You can't see it right here, but the chip itself, the CPU, 45% single core improvement, 45% multi-core improvement, 62% web browsing improvement, which, I mean, that's cool. That's actually something we take for granted, and it's something a lot of people do. It'll make it more efficient, faster, smoother, better battery. And we're talking about a max CPU frequency up to 4.32 gigahertz. If you remember with the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3, it was 3.36 gigahertz in the S24 Ultra with the Snapdragon for Samsung chip. So we're getting basically a 1 gigahertz improvement, but not just one. So the architecture's changed for the chip too. So instead of having a big, middle, and little core, so you have the big power core, the primary core, then you have like the mid cores, and then the lower level efficiency cores. They killed off the efficiency cores. Now we have two primary cores clocked at 4.32 gigahertz, and then you get six mid-range performance cores clocked at about 3.5 gigahertz. So the lowest speed out of these cores now is 3.5 gigahertz. That means the baseline competency and the power that you get with these chips is significantly higher, but it goes back to the power savings. So you get 44% CPU power savings. And this ties into the battery too. 44% CPU savings, 40% GPU. So the GPU, the graphics processing unit, is basically the graphics card. If you think about computers, you have the processor, you got the memory, you got the Wi-Fi chipset, you've got the RAM, all those different things, and those are all isolated. They're by themselves. They're large modules inside a phone processor. It's not, I call it a phone processor just because that's what people are familiar with. It's a system on a chip. So they take everything, basically everything, and they bundle it, they throw it into one chip. So you get the CPU, you get the GPU, you get the Wi-Fi modem, you get the LTE 5G modem. All that is in one little chip. So we've also got a new modem, which should be nice too. And I thought the modem was pretty good in the S24 Ultra, but I've tested it out with new phones with the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, and it is better. So that's going to be one nice thing too. So we take a look at this 44% CPU boost, 40% GPU boost, and then we get 40% improvement in gaming, 35% ray tracing improvement, and on top of that, you get 40% better AI, 45% better AI performance, and that right there, that 45% AI. A lot of people think about AI, and we talk about Galaxy AI, we talk about Circle to Search, we talk about Gemini. We talk about all these different things, and that's a different type of AI. We're talking about like generative AI. We're talking about contextual AI. We're talking about multimodal AI, all those different things. That's a different conversation. We've actually been doing AI for a really long time, and it's what's kept Google as such a high-level performer in the camera. Even when you take a look and some of the other specs aren't necessarily that great. It all comes down to their algorithm. It all comes down to their camera programming. It all comes down to the computational photography, right? So we know that the Google Pixel phone used the same camera for years. I think it might have started the Pixel 2, but I know for sure the Pixel 3. It was the same one in the Pixel 4, same one in the Pixel 5, same one in the Pixel 6a. They used that same camera for 4 or 5 years. And consistently, it was number one or top 5 in smartphone cameras, but they use the same sensor. So you look at this and say, okay, it's got a 200 megapixel camera. It's going to be probably the same one again. But what changed? How can you use the same camera and get better performance every year? And that's because of the chip. That's because of the AI boost. That's because of the computational photography. And that's because of the image signal processor. Because each year the new chip gets a new image signal processor. It's got more performance capabilities. So if you're telling me new ISP, image signal processor, you're telling me new improvements in GPU, we're talking about new improvements in AI, then that's something that lays the groundwork for hopefully Samsung will be able to capitalize on that and be an overall better camera setup. So there's that. Then there's the battery. So let's go back to this again. We talk about the battery performance, overall power savings. 44% power savings on the CPU, 40% on the GPU, 40% on the battery on the AI. Well, I got into a conversation with somebody about this because some people are disappointed the new phone probably won't have a 6,000 milliamp battery, and they think that a 5,000 milliamp battery is not good enough. Well, we've had a 5,000 milliamp battery for years, and what happens every year? we get more battery out of it. We've come a long way from 4 hours of screen on time, 5 hours of screen on time, 6 hours. I mean, you can squeeze 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours out of these in some cases. And when I first got the S24 Ultra, I said it had, I think, the best battery life I had the phone in years, especially for a Samsung. It's held up pretty well. I know that some of the software updates kind of messed with it a little bit during the middle point, but that CPU, being able to do more with less, means that that battery goes farther. So if you can get 40% more power efficiency, then you don't necessarily need a 6,000 milliamp battery. If you had the older chip, a 6,000 milliamp battery, apples to apples, it would be better. Like if you could get 7 hours of screen on time out of 5,000 with this, if you added 6,000, you'd probably bump it up to 9 hours. So that would be cool, right? But if you can use 40% better power efficiency, then that's going to stretch out your 5,000 milliamp battery even further. So it wouldn't be a surprise to me if we get the S25 Ultra and we go, okay, well, we're getting 9 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours of screen on time with the same battery. And I know the silicon technology is on the horizon. Some people are starting to incorporate it. OnePlus has, and the 6,000 milliamp battery is fantastic. I would love to have a 6,000 milliamp battery. And I would love for them to go to a new camera. Those things I would be happy about. I think most other people would too, based off of the experience we've had so far. But we can't prejudge it and say, oh, well, it's the same camera. It's not the same camera. It's the same sensor, but it's not going to be the same performance. It's not going to be the exact same as it is with the new phone. So those two things right there alone, the battery and the camera, that stuff I think is going to be significantly improved. And when I talk about the AI performance, that goes into a lot of things. That goes into skin color, that goes into saturation, that goes into real world representation, what the photo looks like, that goes into processing, that goes into AI stuff. And when you take a look at the AI, that stuff that's built in, we've been talking about it for years. Computational photography is AI. It's just not AI that we're talking about now in the last year, where we talk about generative AI and computational, well, not computational, but we talk about all the other stuff that the phones can do and all these AI features. And those AI features are cool, and they'll take advantage of this. Surely they will, and it'll help take them to the next level. But we've been using AI for years. We've just had different names for it, right? So, like the Google Call Assistant, that uses a lot of AI. When we were using that the last couple of years, nobody was referring to that as an AI feature. It was just Google's Call Assistant. So, we've had a lot of features for years that are benefiting from this and will continue to benefit from it. So I'm excited about this, and that's why I think the chip is the most significant upgrade. And it is, right? I mean, we know that it is. Now, the charging speed, I can't do a whole lot for you there, but if we're going to get 45-watt charging again, I'm okay with that. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's crap, it's not flagship level charging. Well, in the US, it certainly is. Because in the US, if you take a look at the competitors, well, the Google Pixel phone, 30, 40 watts, depending on what you use. If you get the iPhone, it's 20 watts. The OnePlus phone is 80, but that's an exception. That's not a rule. So the S24 Ultra, even to date, has faster charging than the Pixel 9 series phones and the iPhone 16 series phones. So that's just kind of the way things work here. And Samsung has been very reluctant to push the envelope on that because they really care about stability, they care about reliability, and they care about performance. And using the same or similar battery technology, not changing things up too much. If you remember the Note 7, maybe they'll give you a frame of reference why. But this is some really impressive stuff when it comes down to the overall performance of the phone. And even the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor has some built-in improvements for camera stuff too. Let me read this off. So new hexagon direct link, limitless segmentation, AI relighting, AI pet suite, and video magic eraser. So if we talk about that hardware-based stuff, that's hardware-based. So we should see better photos for animals, which that is one thing people have complained about with the Samsung series phones. A lot of it has to do with the shutter speed, which is taking the photo. It's not post-photography stuff. That's whenever you get the shutter speed. So I'm hoping we see some improvements there. It has gotten better. And there is a mode where you can go into the phone and prioritize speed over quality, which largely you still get pretty good quality photos anyway. But what Samsung does is it tries to church up the image real quick whenever it takes the image, and that can cause some lag. So hopefully we'll get more hardware-based photography with the shutter speed there, and maybe that might improve it. But we're supposed to get better animal photos, supposed to get better lighting. AI relighting, if you think about it, what Google Pixel has done, they've already got, you can change the lighting sources, add lighting to photos, post-production. So this right here should do something similar to that. It should give you better lighting with the photos. And then segmentation, limitless segmentation. I'm not really sure how that applies. I'm not a photo magician. And then video magic eraser. We're familiar with magic eraser. That's a terminology that Pixel has where you can go in and you can take stuff out of the image. That's been around for a long time. Before we were calling it AI, we were just calling it magic eraser. That is an AI feature. So the next level, I think, is going to be here with this chip. We've been talking about AI, and we've been talking about the benefits, and this should be the first system-wide improvement, but there's a tremendous amount of horsepower there. And I think that's hopefully going to power this next generation of hardware-based AI stuff, because a lot of AI, a lot of complaints people have is it's on the cloud, it's on the cloud. Well, the more sophisticated these phones get, the more sophisticated these chips get, it gives us more capabilities to do stuff on the phone. And that'll be interesting to see with One UI and also with Bixby. So, yes, the chip is the biggest thing, and a lot of people really overlook it. They're like, oh, well, it's still got, UFS 4, it's still only got 12 or 16 gigs of RAM. That's perfectly fine. Samsung's been ahead of the power curve in the RAM department for a long time. This is not something that's going to bite them in the butt like it did with Apple, at least in the foreseeable future, where Apple was sandbagging for years with 4 gigs of RAM, 6 gigs of RAM. They were screwing people over by giving you the bare minimum resources for their needs, not anticipating the future proofness, or they did. And I talked about this before. They either didn't anticipate the AI jump and they got caught red-handed, or they got caught with their pants down, or they saw it coming and they deliberately limited the resources to force people to upgrade. And that's one reason I've really been happy about Samsung in the last year, because they talked about it with Galaxy AI for All. It wasn't just AI features for the S24 Ultra. No, it was features. They pushed them out for the S23 Ultra, the S22 Ultra. I think even the S21 FE got a few, but definitely some of the FE stuff. So they've been pushing it out backwards, up and down the chain, giving people these features. So it'll be interesting to see if we get any exclusive features, and it'll be interesting how they incorporate this stuff, because really, the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor is super impressive, and I think it's going to really impact a lot of stuff on the phone. A lot of stuff people take for granted. They go, yeah, this is the same. Yeah, that's the same. But it doesn't take into consideration what this chip can do and how it influences all that stuff on so many different levels. It's not like, okay, we threw it in there. Well, they throw it in there and they fine-tune it, and then they use it to their advantage for the stuff that they do on the phone. So it'll be interesting to see that. And then, well, like we know, the phone's going to be here in 2 days, so we'll get to see all this stuff at the keynote. We'll get to see all this reported updates to the AI, new AI features, and I hope to see some exclusive stuff. What we saw with last year's go-around was like a lot of cloned AI features that Google was offering that Samsung kind of gave a different name for it. I'd really like to see them come up with some really good stuff that's meaningful, useful, and helpful. And I think Bixby 2.0, I think that's really going to be the big selling point, because a lot of stuff when we talk about AI and being able to talk to your phone and tell it to do stuff, we've been sitting around waiting for a long time for essentially Jarvis. If you watch Iron Man, you watch the Marvel movies, you watch the Avengers, we know that Tony Stark has Jarvis, which is his basically virtual assistant that's built into all of his technology and does what he tells it to do. Well, one day that's going to be a reality. And hopefully we'll see some steps taken in that regard and see a complete revitalization of Bixby. That'd be really cool. We're not there yet, but it takes stepping stones to get there. It's like with the Apple Vision Pro. It brought some really cool stuff, but not really widely applicable to people and cost way entirely too much. And suckers like me went out and bought it. And then it's like a giant paperweight sitting over here on my floor. But they're doing the groundwork, right? They're doing the groundwork. They're building the technology. So this stuff is very expensive. And Samsung is in the best position, primed to do this stuff. And it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And we're expecting to see the S25, S25 Ultra, S25 Plus. We might see the S25 Slim, which I think if it does show up, we'll see that later on down the road, maybe in a couple of months. We're maybe going to see the new Galaxy Ring, maybe going to see the Galaxy glasses. This should be a really big, really cool Unpacked event, and I hope that at the end we have some cool one more thing like Apple does to showcase some of these new things. But I wanted to talk about this because I get so many comments from people saying it's the same phone. It's not the same phone at all. It might look the same. It might have a few of the same components, but what you can do with them we'll get taken to the next level with the new chip, and we'll just see how far that is. So that's all I got. If you have any questions, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints, all that stuff, please go to the comment section. I'll do my best to get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, if you like this stuff, if you're a Samsung fan, stay tuned. I'll have tons of videos, tons of them, because there's going to be so much to cover as the new phone launches. I'll be at the Unpacked event. I'm flying out. As you're watching this today, I'm on a plane on my way to go, so I can go and cover all this stuff. So it'll be exciting. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, all that crazy stuff if you want updates on the latest and greatest. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching. And I want to take just 1 second. I know I've wasted a lot of seconds already, but I had put out a post yesterday about it being my birthday. Turned 41 yesterday. And so many comments. I go through and I try to reply to these, but I think there's like 500-600 comments in there with birthday wishes. And I say this all the time, like, you guys are the absolute best. Like, the best community anybody could ask for out there in all of the internet. Y'all are considerate, y'all are caring, y'all are engaged, y'all show up, you're dedicated and committed day in and day out. You show up, you watch my videos, you leave comments, you offer well wishes. And I just want to tell you, I know I say this a lot, but from the bottom of my heart, like, you guys really matter to me. And I really appreciate everything that y'all do. I appreciate the commitment y'all have and showing up and caring about what I do, because you make all this possible, and y'all are just darn great. So thank you so much for the birthday wishes. I will not be able to go back and reply to all of them, but I wish I could. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And, well, I'm out. So see you guys later.